afternoon. This is Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And just after I said, Mars is applying to conjunct Pluto on the 29 degrees of Capricorn. This is my 11th house. I had some internal beautiful things, but it's kind of like, hey, why don't I have this big peak moment that arrived? And I actually opened this episode before I even look at the chart. This is what prompted me to press record. And I always like to wait for the thing that I could wake up in the middle of the night, something happens, some person comes to my mind, whatnot. And this is the very prompt for my let's press record. Erwin Schrödinger, so Schrödinger from Schrödinger's cat, on consciousness. Although I think that life may be the result of an accident, I do not think that of consciousness. Consciousness cannot be accounted for in physical terms. For consciousness is absolutely fundamental. It cannot be accounted for in terms of anything else. And this is as mentioned in The Observer, 1931. Before we try to go to Schrödinger's natal chart, let's take a peek at the chart for today. And I'm beginning this with ascendant on my friggin' Rahu, so respect that. But a suicidal Pluto in the 11th degree of Aquarius with the midheaven in the 18th degree. Now, to talk about poison, I got some lavender, 18 degrees related with poison, and to counter that, I have some essential oil of rose and lavender. Rose is love, as we know, but it's also good for our hormonal system and blah, blah, blah. And lavender, if you are for the blah, 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 then write in the comments, Shirley, please expand on that blah, blah, blah. I will do a rose essential oil video. And lavender is good for our nervous system, but also to connect us with our heart. And I actually had a small cut on my hand, very small, just for my cats. It's a love cut. So, wouldn't work for a man, but the cats get away with this. And actually, this Mars is squaring my Mercury, which rules hands. So, the moon is releasing from a conjunction to Neptune, but is trining this Mars and Pluto because this Mars is squaring my Venus and Mercury. I'm not like doing a talisman of it, but I do want to talk about some of the things that we are going to see in the Pluto era in Aquarius, as well as the conjoining of Mars and Pluto. We may see like a big event right now. I suspect that in 2 and something years, when they meet again, we are going to see like something that is more of a continuation of the ingress event. But the ingress event is very important. Both Mars and Pluto are going to be on 0 degrees Aquarius. Why did I bring this quote by Erwin Schrödinger? And let's do a little bit of Schrödinger natal chart while I'm talking about. So, Erwin, בסדר. Natal chart. If you wonder about my language, then when I'm speaking with Hebrew speakers, I mix in English, and when I'm speaking with English speakers, then is the other way around. I only discovered that when I tried to teach an American person, I don't know, from the Caribbean, Hebrew. So now, before I analyze the chart itself, it's the first time I see it, and look at this beautiful zero Libra Venus with ascendant in 29 degrees Virgo. Mercury ruled ascendant next to Venus. And the symbolism of cats. Well, we are going to see a lot of science that hacks into the nervous system, which is kind of like the closest you could get to our consciousness. Because our nervous system is a more decentralized form of brain. I love you too. What you doing to the banana? You want the banana? Okay, they're infatuated with this banana next to my Aries in Aries. So, they cut my train of thought. Yes, sweethearts. These are two kittens, by the way. So more Mercury symbolism or Gemini symbolism. Um, yeah, we're going to see a lot of display of the nervous system and the signs of the nervous system. And we are going to be told a narrative. Okay, it's the narrative that I've been told when I was a little science girly, and I want to know about this because it's important for you to not find out this when you are 40, okay, or 400. And that is, we are going to be told that the nerve, look at all this information about the nervous system. Look, I can poke here, they move the hand there, I can do this, they do that, and people are actually going to see that. So hacking into nervous system, we might have event like this coming up. And people who are doing, let's say, channeling, then they sometimes call it like psychic attack, and they tend to that in that way. Beta blockers do not solve this issue, and they do kill people. And so we have a scientist that tells us, and this is not just a scientist, it's a scientist that talked about a quantum effect, okay? Schrodinger's cat, okay, the Schrödinger equation. It's not just a scientist, it's the scientist that came up with quantum reality, which is mainly used to both computate and explain consciousness as well, both from like spiritual woo-woo people that maybe you would say also like astrologers that try to use quantum theory. I haven't seen one with string theories, but that would be interesting to explain the phenomena called human consciousness and spirituality. But also we are seeing this being used by materialists who are like, okay, this is the mind, this is the brain. Look how we can use quantum computation and hack into people's nervous system. Notice what you hear from my accent is notice those interferences in my frequencies as I broadcast about this, okay? I don't know where it's coming from, but this is actually a meta, okay, when I'm speaking about this. And so what we need to understand is that, yes, you can absolutely fumble with those systems that are, I don't want to say the word chaotic because this would be misunderstood, non-linear dynamic systems, okay? And what are non-linear dynamic systems? We can talk about the weather, we can talk about fluid dynamics, okay? We can talk about a neural activity or the electricity in the brain specifically. We can talk about a lot of the things that we interpret as our brain. So it can be human psychology, and people might take us to psychiatry. Okay, correlations between astrology, psychology, psychiatry. But also astrology and climate and so on and so forth. However, those things, this level of analysis is not false. The claim for an additional level of analysis for the question of the mind-brain, okay, is necessary to understand the politics that we see today. Okay, it's important to know that the clouds look differently when they are made by a plane that sprays some stuff. And by the way, some of this stuff is what they sprayed in concentration camps or gas chambers. And you say, oh, but the doses matter. Yes, they matter, but you cannot outdo the materia. Okay. If this is cyclone B or related cyclone B kind of effective stuff, then you cannot outdo the damage. You can just diminish the level in which it happens, and those damages, of course, are to the nervous system. So in order to have good insights for the nervous system, people explore it by having a pandemic of nervous system stuff. Anybody who lives under sprayed areas with sensitive, whether in their breathing or in their nervous system, can attest to this. So we can tell the difference of when this is a sky and when this is a painting of a sky. Okay? And those things have pros and cons, because technology, look, I'm broadcasting through a cell phone. It has radiation, it has waves, right? It has, we talked about the labor stuff, but it also has a wave effect on like the environment and me. However, another level of analysis is that there is another level to what we call consciousness. And the question of the mind-brain, while the consciousness has, and this is where I argue with Schrödinger, the consciousness has residues in something that can be observed, and throughout these 20 years, for sure, we will have the technological advancements to allow us to observe more and more wavelengths, wave frequencies, and thus more and more levels of those residues of consciousness in the physical world. Okay, I do support both emergence and top-down, which means that our physique, our physicality, the conditions of our living, they contribute to the emergence and shaping of consciousness, as well as we have a level of interferences that is top-down, as from a consciousness to the material plane. This is not a mind over matter in the way that if they take anything away from you, you will make it, maybe, but in Chinese revolution, cultural revolutions, we definitely saw that people died. Okay, they could not do mind over matter and overwork themselves. Okay, for mind over matter, you have to point at a focus that is actually contributing to your life. And what enables you to work and what limits your ability to work, as third generation to survivors of death and concentration camps, which were working camps, I see in my life very vehemently. So no, you cannot just do mind over matter and work for the government. No, it's not actually working. And we have the Cultural Revolution in China as an event to tell us that this was not maturing well, okay? That being said, given us the conditions, okay, the good soil, the good water, the good time to rest and the time to play, is breathing a certain consciousness that can allow for better decision making and also a better experience of life. And it is true that it in itself could be not sufficient, okay? It's not just about, let's say, housing first, but there also is validation and other layers of analysis of consciousness, like psychology, sociology, in addition to the chemistry, computational, and whatnot. And I want to address, okay, I think the name is George Eliot in 2014 or 2015, to talk about can physics underlie the mind, and this was basically would become the theoretical framework for my thesis. And I wrote the thesis proposal. After the Me Too, I took a break from academia. And I cannot but stand and observe the fall of Ivy League in status and appreciation, which some would say it's sad, but it was corrupt, okay? And so it was blocking scientific evolution more so than contributing to it. And yet, I do quote an academic researcher, and I was an academic person myself, and I'm thankful for the things that I did receive that are good. Yes. So, why is this important to know? Well, we must understand ritual. Okay? We must understand the existence of ritual. If you cannot talk about a level of consciousness, then you cannot talk about any issues and societal and social and psychological issues to do with that level of consciousness. Okay, we have a computation level, or where you can interfere or hack the nervous system, which they're using certain waves and so on and so forth. Okay, if something goes mixed, you're driving your Tesla and your nervous system is a bit hacked and you are pressing the gas instead of the brakes, and you know that it's not your consciousness that did that, as have happened in many cases, especially around following the vaccine. I'm not sure if it's like the vaccine or it's additional thing that was meant to confuse people to go for the vaccine. That being said, it doesn't mean that there was not warfare in the vaccine itself. Definitely the side effects were not desired, okay, and were crucial enough to stop this activity in terms of a medical ethics. However, when we are talking about hacking to nervous system, if you cannot mention this possibility, let's say on the computational level, if you cannot mention such a technology, then a person cannot explain what happened to them. They have to take accountability over something that they basically cannot take accountability for. They have to, when you are not sovereign, you cannot take accountability for your sovereignty. Okay, you need to address this and become sovereign so that you can take accountability for your sovereignty. At another level of analysis is ritual. Okay, this is what the people call a psychic attack or a ritual. And if we cannot address ritual as a level of analysis, we cannot address both the good things, okay, like channeling, the mediumship, messages from people that crossed over, or from telepathy, willingly consensual astral sex, okay, and intimacy. Then it's difficult to share our experiences and connect with people, which is also worth mentioning. But also, when something goes wrong, you cannot talk about this because you are imagining. Okay, and Pluto in Capricorn was the greatest word for Pluto Capricorn was gaslighting. The world at large learned about gaslighting and about the structural system, and eventually had to identify gaslighting of the entire system towards them. Okay, then the level of consciousness that is ritual, that is beyond the physical, is important to understand and acknowledge. Okay, and this is important to say that if a person doesn't have any technology there with them, they can still interfere with the sovereignty of another person. And yes, of course, no power, no one has power over you, and that I totally celebrate that and I endorse that. That being said, a person need to learn the accessibility to protect yourself has to be there. And we see that actually providing soil, clear water, clear air, and validation will, even in the case of psychosis, if we talk about open dialogue approach, in Finland, where you do have, or at least had up until now, housing first, then you see that even a person who supposedly has psychosis, which was considered the most difficult psychiatric disorder, it would actually be starting to make a lot of sense, because once they are able to talk about what actually happened, both knowing that they are loved and that they are, I don't mean erotically, I mean as being, and that they are accepted, and that they will not have housing, not have food, or not have social connection, or nobody would believe them. Okay, and so I think it's important to hear Erwin Schrödinger, the person who made us the Schrödinger equation, that is quantum effect. We don't ask me to explain quantum. I will quote to you Feynman, who says, if you understand quantum, then you don't understand quantum. And I'm also not up to speed with the current events, or how is string theory doing, because this was the union of the diversity of quantum theories into kind of an M theory. Then you had a couple of string theories. So all of those are very interesting. And the person who came that close tells you, hey, what everything means, and also I don't understand completely everything. But when Einstein had his own contribution, he talked a lot about the role of imagination. And for his lifestyle, he was able to concentrate for long, but he was also sleeping and processing a lot. In industrial society, you cannot have Einsteins and you cannot have Schrödingers either, I dare say. So while I'm all pro technology, technology does not equal industrial. In fact, it is the other way around. Okay, none of the things that that actually got us to be in a transition of changing world was made by people who worked around the clock, hustled, weren't lazy. No, we got a person who would take a nap literally everywhere, won't fix his hair, and act kind of weird in pubs, and have lovers that, which I do not endorse, of course, that is the one who not only came up with theories, but also made the call to the President of the United States, and could access this level of interaction. Of course, you have to also be a member of certain societies where this is allowed, okay? Because if you and the President are a member in the same society, then you can talk to each other much easier than any American citizen. And this is also important for us to understand. However, we do not even have Einstein's breathing today, because this is not even accessible. Okay, it's not accessible to think, to imagine, to research. And the very person who came up with the equation, the very people that came up with quantum advancement, to be generalizing on the Schrödinger case, actually were people of imagination, and were people that levels of consciousness that are not that, how can I say, non-physical consciousness, non-physical, not physical, non-physical consciousness is not a stranger to them. Those were eventually the people that advanced our technology beyond belief. Okay, and when I talk about hacking into someone's nervous system, affecting their will, and infringing their sovereignty thereby, I am talking about something that is technology beyond belief in every way, shape, and form. Now let's take a look a little bit at Schrödinger's natal chart, if I'm already here. So he was born in Vienna, Austria. This is an X-rated data source. So this is not AA, and so the ascendant and the midheaven cannot be like fully trusted. We have Chiron, 29-degree Gemini, with the midheaven 28-degree Gemini, so conjunction of Chiron and the midheaven. Luna 22 degrees Taurus. Rahu 18 degrees conjuncting Sun in the 12th house, Jupiter on the anaretic degree of Libra, ascendant ruled by Mercury, and the midheaven ruled by Mercury. Mercury is in 1 degree Leo, releasing from conjunction to Saturn in 29 degrees Cancer. Mars in Cancer in the 11th house. Yes, so definitely this was a person who was known for beautiful mathematical equations. Trying to get the cats here because Saturn the 11th. Cats. Why cat? Okay, most known thing is Schrodinger's cat. Yes, Saturn in the 11th. So maybe he had I don't know if he had pets or not. And that's where the Schrödinger cat analogy came from. Gosh, thanks, Ray. Fluid concept. I just remembered fluid concepts from academia. It's not his, but it's like Neptune 29 degrees Taurus. Okay, we see a nice bisextile with the Saturn, Mercury, and the ascendant and Neptune. That usually gives a person, it facilitates here a sort of channeling that is structural, that has beauty, Venus. He's able to structurally channel something that is occultistic, actually, because this Neptune is in the 8th house. So has good access to occult, and the 12th house is packed, okay, if this is the ascendant. But again, we might not have them correct, so I don't know. Jupiter squares Saturn. Interesting. And Uranus in Libra. 9 degrees Libra. Okay, this is an interesting chart. If this house structure is correct, what he's bringing from... Oh, I'm sorry. Neptune is in the 9th house. Okay, so he has a good access to that which we don't know that we don't know. So he's bringing a lot of things to do with light. Okay, another Virgo ascendant, as well as Feynman. Leo 12th house would give us a lot of things to do with light, and taking a look at solar phenomena, but solar phenomena also on the occultistic level. Okay, especially with, this is 12th house. Okay, 12th house, it would not just give you the science of something, but also the more holistic approach to it. Okay, or you would get science by channeling, which was the original name for this channel, channeling science. So what he got had to do with light, what he got had to do with mathematically displaying effects of light. Neptune in the 9th house gives us an access to non-duality, okay, the dream, the reality. And Saturn in the 11th in Cancer gives us a certain sort of structure. The ruler of Saturn is again in the 9th house, 22nd degree, so he was able to be informed about things to do with lethal things. Yes, and this saying about consciousness, you have to understand this also in a political context. Not his political context, but a political context, okay? If we reduce the question of existence to equations, as unfortunately I've seen done in philosophy of science way too many, when during the era when I was trying to see if there's a place I could feel at home there. And mathematics is beautiful, is essential. It is insufficient to describe philosophy of consciousness or consciousness itself. And it is also insufficient to describe what conscious beings do. Okay? And thus, we must always be aware of this when we come to address questions of sovereignty. Yes, sweetheart. Okay? And again, this is not to disturb anyone or to trigger anyone. On the other way around, is telling you that there is another level of analysis that you can access. Some people may use astrological magic or magic. Some people use prayer or spirituality. Okay? All of those things are going to be completely evolved in the next 20 years, as well as the science. First, I don't want you to miss out on that. I don't want you to miss out on the real goodies. The real goodies is all of the level of analysis. Second, when you see warfare in those realms, okay, if there was psychological warfare, and if you missed it, then you wouldn't be prepared, okay? If you didn't know that certain structures that are hierarchical are gaslighting you, then you wouldn't be prepared. If you would analyze things sporadically at the age of Capricorn, rather than understanding that there is a center to the things that look sporadic, then you would not be correct in your analysis, okay? While in the age of Aquarius, if you try to find a center for something that is essentially decentralized, then you are also on the wrong. How do we do in computational system? How do we do security? Okay, we cannot control everything, but essentially when we talk about open code systems, they are usually more secure. Okay, Linux is more secure than Windows. This is just so. And when we are talking about this transition, okay, of the Mars-Pluto, definitely to explain things in, oh, this is what they did, and all the analogies that we would get about science, you know, kind of like the village people in Africa trying to summon a demon in order to bring the airplane that just landed again, and so on and so forth. So yes, technology is important to get to know, to be informed, and if we see something that looks like alien technology to us, of course it has patterns, it has praxis, and so on and so forth. That being said, the very people who built your planes, your A-bombs, and your big technologies, they were doing rituals, they were channeling technology, okay? So people don't come with insight on the no-go. I don't come with insight on the no-go. I wake up in the night, there are channelings that I receive, there are things there are discussions on another level of existence. Okay, and then you get this recording. And if you don't know that that exists, and you don't know that there are societies that have some sort of common interest involved in these things, then you could either fall into the trap of, hey, I just got an idea, this must be the truth, some God just told me that, and it's a conglomerate of people that made a ritual, okay? Or alternatively, you can go to the other way around and think there is no ritual. This is my idea, okay? And this is my idea can be a little bit problematic, because this is my idea, but where is this idea coming from? Okay, so some of it is made by, I can look at the chart, I can look at beings, I can look at the telepathy, I can look at certain things, and I also have my own ideas, right? We are thinking beings, we are part of this system. But another thing is to observe the idea, okay? And another thing is to understand ritual and access this level by yourself. Okay, I'll give an example. I give the example of that is near to the field of astrology that I'm dealing with. Okay, Caitlin Kopok. Okay, she was taking the notion of astrological magic, where you make like crystals and stuff like that, and she said, "Hey, I could do like body butters." Essentially, because she had the idea to do the Thema Mundi, and you have to blend things. Okay, you cannot blend like metal and mold it, because then you basically you transform something. Maybe you can do it, but she was and eventually she would do it, but with the help of those oils and butters and stuff like that. But you can take like a cosmetic thing, and people use body butters, people use this, people use that. And if I can enchant that, then later I can save this and build a big chart, which was not done before. It was a dream she woke up with. And so when she was trying to do this, now what is the deal about the Thema Mundi chart, okay, and also the talismanic work? It's a birthing talisman. And when you deal with fertility, she got a lot of trouble. So she got a lot of things. Nobody wanted to be her teacher. Everybody left her because she was bringing something new to the table, but also she was doing something that is outside of those very cults. Again, I don't know if she's a member of secret society or not, but outside of those very cults that practiced those very things. Okay, and when you deal with fertility, of course, there were a lot of problems on the birthing of Thema Mundi itself. And when we take that into consideration, if you don't know all the levels of analysis, and you just take science stuff and graphs and nervous system, then you are missing a certain thing that can be crucial depending on the context. Okay, there are some things where you say, well, if it works, I don't mind. And there are some places where something is a little bit not working. If you try the wrong level of interference, and you are not open to the right level of interference, then there can be a big issue. Okay, so if you had a psychic attack and you go to your next psychiatrist and they give you a beta blocker, and you say, well, in the beginning it helps, of course, it shuts down your body, okay, so no autonomic muscles contract, but I cannot poop, and I have my heart rate is weird. Yes, of course, these are autonomic muscles that it shuts down. So you're being killed, but no one addresses what you say, okay? And if this is overwhelming for you, you might be okay with this. Okay, give me the pills to shut this down, okay? As some people are at some stage. But if you understand that already, that being listened to and addressing what is the content of things is actually important. And some of these content may be channelings, okay? So if you're going to a psychiatrist, you're going to the wrong level of analysis. And if you are not open to hear what the channeler has to say, what the lady in Africa has to say, what other people have to say about the same phenomena, how do they call it, how do they address this, then not building this divergence is basically getting you to miss out on levels of analysis that are important to the issue at hand. Mars, Pluto, is going to have a lot of effects, okay? I have it between the 11th and the 12th. The 12th is mental health. So I have more access to like the psychiatric level and the ritual astrological level, okay? Because I have Saturn in my 9th house. Aquarius is also astrology and science. So the channeling science kind of level. There are many other levels of analysis. There is the war, there is the aggression, all these things, but they are not unconnected, okay? If you're being told this is your, person makes a car accident, because they got their nervous system hacked. This was such a meta when I was trying to explain this. And so they got their nervous system hacked. They make a car accident, okay? And they are guilty in the car accident according to the law, okay? Then if you cannot discuss the technology even of hacking into nervous system, then you cannot explain the behavior of the driver other than sovereignty, and so the driver has to take accountability for something that he was not sovereign doing. Or alternatively, you could say that this person is cuckoo and let's give him beta blockers that would shut his body down or her body down, and be hospitalized in that way. And so they are eliminated from the discourse, and that can be an experiment of how to eliminate or assassinate people, as well as simply that this person they wanted to eliminate because they said something, because they did something, and so on and so forth. And you think, my God, surely you are being so and so. Darlings, you don't know the technology of war. Get informed. Okay? If you don't understand that laser technology can be against missiles, but also to burn metal, then you know you cannot kill you cannot kill a scientific argument with the word of pseudoscience. You would have to explain to me your science that you are reliant on. And this is important, and we are heading towards a scientific revolution. This is the time in history where science fictions become science. If you miss the level of analysis of that which is non-physical, okay, then you must understand that hacking into nervous system can be done by technology, but it can also be done in other ways, like ritual. And this is something that people should be informed of. For all of these tactics, there are counter tactics, okay? If somebody is gaslighting you, trying to create drama in your life, then there is this building up what we call a gray rock, okay, or completely severing ties with this person. Okay, think about Pluto Capricorn. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, completely severing ties. And gray rock is ruled by Saturn. Gray, I don't know which color. I think actually Uranus is associated with that, so I don't know. And I really like the Schrödinger pointing this out. We can read a little about his life if we are here, so I'll leave the chart here to see. Add to my Astro database. That would also be in the 12th house here. And let's do... Okay. Austrian-Irish physicist. And by the way, I have to admit that this is a Rahu return to the first time that I learned about him in chemistry book. So it's really true. It's really true. He's coming up again in my life. And I will do the synastry later, so you might stay for the synastry, you might not stay, but you are invited to stay. So Erwin Rudolf Joseph Alexander Schrödinger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 names. And okay, Nobel Prize winning Austrian. Oh, and another thing I want to emphasize, it is happening from my 11th to the 12th, the role of societies and society. Again, it's no longer secret societies, okay? We all know there are like people like Illuminati, like Rosicrucians, Masons that were later, okay, the later Rosicrucians were Masons. I have life path 33. The only reason I am not a Mason is because I was going through certain childhood trauma, and that was involved in secrecy. And I decided not to keep things a secret. As Pluto was transiting my midheaven, I stopped being a secretive person and began to radically tend to myself. And this is a process that is bearing fruits towards my Pluto square, okay? As I am incredibly authentic with myself, and publicly authentic, but um, mm, 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 mm. Yes, and so I'm not a Mason because I'm not a secretive person. But my life path is 33. It is connected to Masonry, and so I do receive a lot of the teachings that they receive. Of course, I will have my own take on it, and of course, I would require for people to know this, because for people to be sovereign, you cannot just say, "Oh, not all people are ready to be free," and not give people the teachings that they need to be free, or decide that you're going to give these teachings in a crisis where you haven't actually exposed them to these teachings, and you haven't actually addressed also the misconceptions that you have around women, around energies, and so on and so forth. You haven't allowed for diversity to challenge your ideas, and therefore have not grown intellectually in a sufficient way, although you can say that this is very widespread societies. So you have a lot of great teachings from them. For example, Rudolf Steiner, he was a Rosicrucianist, and he definitely has very interesting teaching that can explain a lot of the things. But how can you explain a lot of the things if the people that run this place, okay, are from the same society, and they believe in something, and this is their teaching? Of course, it's going to work in praxis because it's those people that are the decision makers. And I'm not saying they didn't receive a lot of right decisions or very intellectual and interesting decisions, but we cannot argue that not all people can be free when we are not providing people with the education that can allow them to make choices. And we can also challenge our own perspectives, okay? For example, as Pluto ingressed to Capricorn, I was going with Viktor Frankl. I didn't even know about him, but I just learned before that, when I was at work in a credit card company, by the way, they taught us marketers the pyramid of needs, of Maslow's pyramid. And I felt itchy in the body. I felt like something here is not true to my life. I was working for a credit card company. It's like there were all these things, but I needed a life meaning. And I kind of felt that the life meaning was more important to even desire to be alive. But then eventually, I built a certain progress that basically in the other way of the pyramid, and then eventually I realized that yes, to make good life decisions, of course, need to be informed, but I do need to connect to have a healthy nervous system. I do need the base. I do need soil. I do need connection and grounding. So this is just a process that I went through. Okay, I could go through this because I was not in a ritualistic cult where if I would see, wait, this works differently by me, that would be completely unaccepted, or I would not be able to explore that, or not be able to challenge even my own opinions. Okay, and we grow by being able to challenge our own opinions when we are able to. Okay, we can do it all the time full blown, otherwise we also get psychosis. So let's talk about Schrödinger. Naturalized Irish physicists. What is naturalized? Nature, who developed fundamental results in quantum theory. He is recognized for postulating the Schrödinger equation. I used to look at this equation. I had feelings for this equation. I don't know why. It is not rational. And I have dyscalculia. Okay, an equation that provides a way to calculate the wave function of a system. This is where I get excited. I'm sorry. And how it changes dynamically in time. So you see, it's very relevant to the spirit of the times. He coined the term quantum entanglement, and was the earliest to discuss it, doing so in 1932. Please tell me he's not a Nazi. Please tell me he's not a Nazi. Please tell me he's not a Nazi. I know I'm going to be let down. So in addition, he wrote many works on various aspects of physics, statistical mechanics, thermodynamics, physics of dielectrics. What is dielectrics? It's a new word. What is this? Electrical insulation that can be polarized by an applied electric field. Okay, the ability to polarize an electric field. Or the fields that can be polarized in this way. Color theory. Of course, the axis of, I told you something to do with, okay, when we talk about the Aquarius and Leo, I'm feeling nostalgia to my early Spirit of Matter episodes. When we talk about the axis of Leo and Aquarius, Aquarius would talk about the wave function, and Leo would talk about light, okay? And so the duality, just think about this axis as the duality of the electric, photoelectric, wave and electron thingy. So color theory, of course, is natural. When you explore consciousness, by the way, color theory is extremely important. And this is because, okay, we have our eyes that are a little bit of a technology where that filters waves and send it into our brain, and our brain has to both flip it around because it's kind of like the camera obscura thingy. The picture comes upside down, so there is a work for the brain to flip it around. What is this brain that flips it around? Is also a question. Okay, so we know the location of the brain where we do this, but knowing the location where we do this, and this is even a bit fundamental, too fundamental or fundamentalist, because local hypothesis in neuroscience is challenged. I believe we have both the local and the non-local, and this is a part of this non-duality as it manifests in our neural activities in our brain. So we flip the picture, but also we need to process the colors, and you know that different beings process colors differently. So some people would see green, some people would see blue, some people would see black and white. And again, we always look at the rare cases, okay? If we don't allocate funds to the rare cases, both in medicine and in science, we will not actually get at things, and also those rare cases will become a pandemic so that we will see them. And that is, if you think about your life, people who do omens, you see one omen, another omen, and they usually pile up until you pay attention to them. It's, by the way, what happened to me with the 7th of October, included in my own satire, where I was using a skit that I was given homage to. Okay, so I was given Sugar-Free Lemonade was a lot of homage to Israeli satire culture, and Flying Bombardier is pretty much kind of like where I take it off and where I lift off, but it's also a lot of channeled insight. In addition, he wrote many works on, yes, these things, color theory. So of course, because there is consciousness involved in processing vision, we are exploring color theory and ability to see things as we tend to the question of consciousness. So if you look at the question of the body-mind or the mind-brain, you will see a lot of articles about light. This is why. About sight. This is why. Moon is more psychology, of course. Astrologically, we see that. Electrodynamics, naturally, general relativity, so continuing on Einstein, I guess, has to be, and cosmology. He made several attempts to construct a unified field theory in his book, What is Life? Schrödinger addressed the problems of genetics, looking at the phenomena of life from the point of view of physics. He also paid great attention to philosophical aspects of science, ancient and oriental philosophical concepts, ethics, and religion. Okay, so philosophy of science, ancient and oriental philosophical concept, ethics, and religion. Okay, when you do philosophy of science by equations alone, you don't get at this level of analysis. You get a major in saying that you're a philosopher. Okay, it's very good if you are in a secret society and you have to do this or you have to do that, and you already get this information elsewhere, but it's not relevant if you just study an academic degree. Okay, this is why Mark Twain said, never let schooling interfere with your education. And oh, was he right. But again, he was probably also, member of something. Otherwise, we wouldn't hear about it. You don't hear the name Shelley Youngblood everywhere. Okay, and I have Neptune next to my midheaven. Okay, it's some stage in my life. I go viral, but you do hear the names of people that you're supposed to hear. Yes, but there are many. There's not only Nikola Tesla. There are many inventors and innovators in energy and free energy. They are all no longer with us, and very recent as well. Okay, from the 90s, from the 80s. So I'm not even antique. Even when people try to do it in recent decades, suddenly dies. All of them suddenly die. All of them are dead. Okay. This is very interesting. So he addressed genetics, great attention to philosophical aspects of science, ancient and oriental philosophical concepts, ethics and religion. He also wrote on philosophy and theoretical biology. In popular culture, he's best known for his Schrödinger's cat thought experiment. Spending most of his life as an academic with positions at various universities, Schrödinger, along with Paul Dirac, I remember from, I don't know if he was a part of Manhattan Project or he was the teacher of like some people, won the Nobel Prize in Physics 1933 for his work on quantum mechanics. The same year he left Germany due to his opposition to Nazism. Oh my God, I have a crush. Sorry. I think don't let him be a Nazi. He's not a Nazi. He's not a Nazi. Oh my God. In personal life, he lived with both his wife and mistress. Okay, which may have led to problems causing him to leave his position at Oxford. Wait. Okay, I'm not monogamous either. Occasionally I am. I have, phases where I'm Plutonian. Oh, that's just possessive. So it seems like he lived with both his wife and his mistress, like they were having like a threesome. I don't. Was he open for them, like to have another lover? I'm just dating a dead man right now. I'm sorry. Subsequently, until 1938, he had a position in Graz, Austria, until the Nazi takeover, when he fled, finally finding a long-term arrangement in Dublin, Ireland, where he remained until retirement in 1955. I think today Jews cannot find refuge in Ireland. Some Palestinians can, perhaps. And where he pursued several sexual relationships with minors. Okay, no. But until I found someone who's not a Nazi. No. Why? No. Ah. He died in Vienna tuberculosis when he was 73. So yeah, pedo. I should have known he won a Nobel Prize. But that's the personal life. And born in Vienna. So he was not a Nazi, but he was. So that's the person. That being said, again, if you don't know, for example, that there are child ritual sacrifices practiced, and this is not exclusive to any religion, okay? Don't make Hitler's mistake. You cannot put a marker of identification of an offender. Okay, it's not about a certain blood, a certain facial structure, a certain appearance even. It is more about a certain behavior, and it is also about a certain structure. And you understand, if you understand this, then this is very important for you, because the problem is the behavior and the structure that supports or only allows this behavior and not that behavior. Okay? If you are not a pedo, they would not accept you in higher ranks in certain societies, because you cannot be blackmailed. Okay? But if you are foolish enough to say it's these people, or it's men, it's women, it's, I don't know, this ethnicity, that nationality, okay? Then the issue is that for the segment of time of your analysis, you could even be correct. You could even be correct. But what is going to happen, is likely to happen, is that they will change the people, okay, at the frontier. For example, if you are recruited to human trafficking, or people try to recruit you to human trafficking, and you are a woman, it would be a woman that has been homeless, that is of a certain ethnicity, that is sure you are an immigrant, that is going to be doing that. And she's also going to be telling you about how she never let a man touch her, and she wants to study like cosmetics, and you can work together doing that, and so on and so forth, while she's basically trying to drag you into her apartment, and slowly build up a certain thing so that you would supposedly know where you're going to, so they wouldn't be able to say this is human trafficking. And she will do it in a country where it is legalized to have sex work, which is also a problem, because the problem is not with sex workers, and definitely not with sex work. The problem is in an entire structure that does not allow a person to do something where they shine at, and happens to both be or not be a sex work. Okay? Because the exploitation is also of people who are sex workers. And so if you are thinking, oh, men are abusive, men are this, men are that, and you're not thinking structurally, they will just put the woman judge. And we see this being done in effect. So if you say, let's say, I don't know, this is the Jews, so they will put in a not Jewish person. They would put a Christian, they would put a Muslim, they would put a Palestinian. Okay, and if you're not paying attention to what is going on, and you try to mark it with a certain ethnicity or bloodline, then you have, first of all, you have not learned that this is not, okay, it's biodiversity and not purification of the race. Okay, if somebody talks about eugenics, they're not scientific, they're not adherent to something that's actually working in this era in time. And this is not because bloodline does not matter, it's because bloodline has a quality that it likes to mingle, kind of like oxygen. Okay, oxygen likes to mingle. Yes, if you breathe only oxygen, you have healthy and so on and so forth. But if you breathe only oxygen all of your life and you go out to play, then you will be so sick that you cannot process and you cannot breathe well. Okay, this is a part of how the immune system works as well. It needs to be exposed to diversity. And this is why blood line with diversity of bloodlines is working better and is reducing hereditary diseases. And also reducing hereditary diseases, because if your culture and my culture works differently, and you and I create something that is kind of like a third thing that works differently, then anything that was ill in our lineage has a chance to be reduced. So new ailments can arise, absolutely. But that is something we know. And so you want to understand that as you look in, for example, people say, oh, this is Illuminati, this is Illuminati, this is Mason, this is what they will change the name. They will change the structure. They will change the this. And the problem is not this is Illuminati. Okay, the problem is when you have to be a member of so and so in order to run this and that group. And this is a problem of Aquarius as well, because Aquarius is about community. And Pluto is a secret community. So you have to be a member of a secret community. And while this is also because humanity at large tends to be sometimes quite stupid about things and reject that which is the outcast, but there are also a lot of protocols for accepting, for learning. Okay, learning is about looking at the marginalized, at the exception, and learning from this. What does the exception to the rule teaches me about the rule? What do people who are very highly sensitive to energy, or that we call them crazy people, or oversensitive people, what do they teach me about my environment? Because they will sense that the spraying of the sky is not just giving me rain way faster than me. So they will know something's up when I will say, okay, they spray the sky, we have clouds, I have more rain, and my crops grow. They would say, no, your crops are growing with toxins. This is ruining the soil. I don't breathe well. Okay, they're not psychotic. They just sense this because they sense this on their body. And that is how people know. People notice the cameras that are at the exit of cities way faster than me. Okay, because I would look at the nature, I would look at this, and they would get like, look at this camera, look at this, look at that. And so we all have phases. When something's transiting your 12th, you will have it through dreams, and you will also be this hypersensitive person to these things. As Pluto is in my 12th now, then I get, it's my turn to be sensitive to these things and understand if we don't look at the exceptional case, that they are. And this is why Aquarians, they identify trends way before something happens. About Aquarius, where this is the Saturn that is outside of the notion of chronology. This is a sign that has a non-linear. Think about scientific revolution. They have a pattern, but it's a non-linear pattern. Every time an outer planet is in Aquarius, we're going to have a period of scientific advancement. Okay? And when Pluto, Aries were conjuncting, and Uranus was next to Aries and was squaring Pluto, my complaint, I was Me Too veteran, so my complaint was not, oh, somebody harassed me sexually and so on. If I could just go someplace else, if I undo my, my thing, so he behaved me not nicely to me. Okay, it's not okay. I don't want this behavior, and Salamat. Okay, it's the structure that was intimidating. Okay, it's not even particularly the person, but the structure that was intimidating. So my complaint was not I was sexually harassed. My complaint was, how does this affect the science? How things work right now in academia affect the science? Why is science progressing while people are saying, oh, science is progressing so quickly and so this? I was like, why is science progressing like an Italian strike? Because I understood that there was way more to this. Da Vinci wasn't working like that, and not even Einstein was working like that. Why are we given these conditions? Why can't we think? Why can't we innovate? Why there is no dedication for that which is outside of the standards? Well, in Uranus this happens, and this is where we get all identification of trends way before they happen. I don't have a natal placement in Aquarius. It is my 12th house. But whenever something transits Aquarius, or if I'm doing astrology, so it's leading this house, then I have more access to it, and it's easier for me to process these things. So I'm actually very grateful to people like Radha Duncheva that already had Pluto in the 12th house, and she was telling things not only through the astrology, but telling of all these hidden things, or insinuating to all these hidden things, and to me that was major contribution, especially as I'm now ingressing to Pluto in my 12th. So there is a lot more than astrology that I've learned there and began to pay attention to. So I wouldn't have this in academia alone. Yes, back to the chart. Yes, I don't have anything particularly smart to say about this. This bringing Luna to my lot of spirit. Yes, Neptune there. Pluto to my Rahu. Okay, the ascendant was on my Rahu. Yes, Pluto conjuncted my Rahu, by the way. I think it's very close to the... Oh, no, it's a couple of years later. Uranus, Venus, and Jupiter to my 8th house. Okay, let's do synastry, so we'll see if there are any biases, because I already covered this. I will have to take this call later. I said add into database. Yes, I already added. Yes, add and calculate chart. This is AstroSeek. I think I've already stated that, but if you have hard aspects to outer planets, from outer planets to your inner planets, natally or in transit, this is a good thing to bring in people who have the trine or the sextile. And funnily enough, with AstroSeek, the creator of AstroSeek has a Pluto-Venus trine, and I have a Pluto-Venus opposition. So I find this very lovely that I do a lot of work with this particular program. So yes. Why do I use synastry? Is basically to show in which way I could be biased when I'm looking at this person. So, okay. Both having the same moon phase. No, I know what happened here. Yes, I did me and me. I might do a Beyonce episode later, because I looked at her chart, but I don't know if I'm the correct person. She brings a lot of planets to my 8th house. There is a square to my moon, and also something that is in bad aspect to my sun, and those are like the two eyes. So I don't know if I can see her correctly. So yes, what we get here, I see a lot of... Let's look at outer planets to inner planets, is what I like to look at first. Jupiter opposing Mercury and opposing Venus. Uranus. Okay. Oh, this is my line. Let's look at their outer planets. Yes, Neptune next to my Chiron, and Pluto next to my Rahu. Okay. Chiron and midheaven next to my IC. Anything particular? Yes, Rahu in my 6th house, Sol in my 6th house. ascendant in my 7th house with Venus in very close to that ascendant in my 8th house. Uranus, Jupiter, we talked about this. His Uranus squares my Jupiter and my Moon. Venus squaring my Neptune. And yeah, oh, Saturn and Pluto squaring, Saturn Mercury squaring my Pluto. Okay, yes, not much there. Am I particularly biased when I'm looking at him? Let's say well, obviously, I need to learn more about him because he's a main figure in my life. The people of the generation of Pluto Gemini that was surrounding my Rahu are key players in my life as I'm growing. You see Hitler, Adolf Hitler, I think he had Pluto right on my Rahu, becoming a major topic of discussion nowadays. So it's becoming like incredibly relevant. But there is also something there that is very relevant to my Rahu. And you know, I'm third generation to family of Holocaust survivors, of which only 2 people survived: my grandfather and his brother from my mother's side. So there were 14 or 16 people dead at that Holocaust, and yet those things are done today also in Israel. And not to Palestinians, to Israelis. Okay? When I'm saying not to Palestinians, it's not that I'm denying. It's that I'm saying before we even look outside, there are concentration camps, medical experiments, people being kidnapped today, everywhere, and also here. And I always, when I see people who testify things, I don't think that they are imagining. No, I understand. No better than that, as the lineage of survivors of this. And also my psychologist, by the way, he told me, when I told him I see those things like a medical experiments and that. I said, I see those things. Is this like from other life or past life? And he said, no, it is this life. And he knew what he was talking about. This absolutely. He was a psychologist, you know, with the system and stuff. So he was not lying in that one. So this is why he comes again. He was coming, the last time he was came into my life was when Rahu was, I think, in Aries as well. And yes, I was looking at Schrodinger's equation. And I think also when I was in high school, but I'm not sure in what way. I was, for example, when we studied light, we didn't study too much about quantum. And I felt like I don't understand anything. And then, you know, when Feynman explains it, then of course he makes it clear to everybody. But it's like, I don't understand the light. And then when quantum came in, I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense of why this light is behaving that way. It's not that we weren't taught, but we were, with optometry, like the optometric stuff, I could not computate anything there. I didn't understand. And I think partially it's like, that's not how light works. So like you're taught the wrong thing, so you cannot computate this. But I don't know, like, to computate quantum or stuff like that. So I'm curious, why is it coming again right now? And all this planet in my 5th house. Okay. Sol in Leo. I mean, Rahu is in Aries. I really don't know. Why now? He has descendant around, vertex around my ascendant. Uranus in my 8th house, maybe that. You know, he has Ketu in Aquarius, actually. but we're not close to. Let's look at the graphics. Oh, Ketu in 18 degree. And this was where the midheaven was, 18 degree. The midheaven was on his Ketu, that's why I talked about him. Now this makes sense. A little look at the composite. And for composites, if I will see this, then I will show you how you know when you're doing, even if you're given a reading. Yes, I admit sometimes I'm lazy to do this and I just take the reading. But right now I don't take readings, don't publish myself too much. I want to look at a composite chart. And what we're looking for is stuff like, Neptune opposing Mercury, opposing Moon, opposing Sun. Those things could make it difficult for us to see the other person. So this is the composite. Mars-Saturn conjunction 21 degrees in the 10th house, ascendant of the composite on my Mercury. I don't know if these are correct because I don't know if the ascendant is correct. And 11th Uranus. Pluto-Uranus square. This is interesting. Mars-Saturn opposing Neptune. So there's illusion about kind of like a syringe. What is the illusion about? Because it's a structural illusion to do with activity to action. And opposing Neptune, some ideation there, I don't know. Oh, I think it can be, okay. What I think is that this person did not get his structural, like when I was looking to this equation, first of all, I idealized it because it shows a certain structure. But I think that there is also, this is an ideal description and it's not sufficient enough a description for the quantum phenomena. So I will need to look at this again. This tells me that this is ideal. Okay, and this is also when you want to see a thinker. Okay, I look at this theory, then I look at this composite, and I say, okay, if Neptune here is prominent and is hard aspected, it means that we have a little bit of an illusion. There is a crisis here. It's not an actual correct description, or not coming in the way that I needed this to see. Okay, I need to see quantum theory in another way. And there is a Mercury-Neptune hard aspect. So I'm not seeing this person correctly. There is illusion around the communication. There is illusion around the equation, because the Mercury is also the equation, as the t-square is supposed to be solved with Jupiter, and Jupiter is isolated, is not doing anything with anything. So while this is about learning quantum theory and learning the structure of consciousness, this is insufficient description. So more is needed to be tended to. Okay. Luna on 18 degree. Gemini, but this is not, and Luna is not making any aspects. No, she's making aspects. She's sextiling Pluto. This is very good. And where is Sol? Sol is hardly making. Sol is making like a wide in conjunct with Uranus, and she's not making any aspect to anything. So it's like you kind of like you see it with one eye, and that eye is a little bit off. Okay, so yes, this is good to know. And back to our current planets. Look at this ascendant on 26 Gemini. Midheaven conjuncting Saturn, so reality check. And the moon 28 degrees Pisces in the 10th. Okay. Then I hope this episode left you with something to think about. And I don't know how will the Mars-Pluto conjunction when it's perfected come to be. But expect those themes that I discussed here in this episode to arise in one way or another. On a mundane level, if you have natal placements associated with that, you will see it more and more. And again, from Capricorn to Aquarius, Mars is going to severing ties with certain structures that are pyramidic. Okay, hierarchical is pyramid structure. And now it's being transformed and informed about decentralized. Okay, for example, when I talk about Bitcoin, I expect this is highly financial real estate. I talked about it in another video. We expect this to be if we take a look at the Bitcoin or digital currency as decentralized, I mean the non-governmental, oh, this is decentralized, this is that, the miners, okay, to mine a Bitcoin, to mine a crypto, the miners are a corporation. There is nothing decentralized about this digital currency as we know it today. If what Lada says is true, and I believe she's correct, we will have other systems of both the internet. Okay, there's nothing decentralized about the internet today. It just reaches more people. But we will have a new internet, and we'll definitely have alternative currencies. It's all Lada Duncheva, and I completely just look at it and I cannot but agree with you as I'm seeing this. And she's very correct. We're going to have alternative to what we think is now the alternative, because the cryptocurrency is corporation based. And while people are like, oh, I expected the Bitcoin to have a peak, to have a that, it can have both a peak and also after this conjunction, or even during this conjunction fall, because Pluto is already in Aquarius, and we're talking about decentralized coins. Whose miners are corporations, so Mars is severing ties with that. I am actually not expecting an actual rise in cryptocurrency as it is today. I'm expecting a transformation in cryptocurrency, but definitely people will try to look at alternatives, and the first thing is like, oh, I will buy Bitcoin. So there can be a little bit of a bubble here. And I want to beware, because we are still culminating with Aries in the last degrees of Aries. We have a decade, but so did the 29 crisis, okay? And then building up a bubble of crypto and the bubble of real estate. And the bubble of real estate is absolutely both busted and built here, because we're building up certain expectations. People will be looking for alternative real estate as well, and kind of like a decentralized forms of real estate, and they will have to innovate on this, because it doesn't exist right now. So yes, au revoir.